So how are you feeling about Meta?
I just saw it. I
Yeah.
clicked this story to look at it later, but Instagram and WhatsApp both have 2 billion monthly active users. 2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft yet the other day said, what did they say? 20 million people have tried Xbox Cloud Gaming. Right? I mean, there are 60-something million people paying for Microsoft 365 consumer subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Spotify, 400. I don't remember the exact number. High 400s. Not all paid, though. Under 200 million paid. But I guess we should be comparing paid to not paid. I'm just trying to put this in perspective. Like, I guess there are over a billion, somewhere between a billion and 1.5 billion users on Windows. But, I mean, are they active? I don't know. What do we compare this to? That's crazy.
That's what I was trying. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head would be something like YouTube, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Or TikTok, maybe. Like one of those. Twitter's not even close, but
And I didn't see Twitter's in the hundreds of millions, low hundreds of millions. I mean, I didn't see a figure for Facebook itself. I would assume that's maybe even higher, or it's got to be in the same range.
Yeah. A lot of people.
Yeah. I would love I would say this all the time about so many things. And I suppose if I got my wish on all of them, I would never want it. But I do use Instagram. I have a hate-hate relationship with it. I wish I could pay for it and not see stupidity. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I'd give anything for a set of settings that would turn off shopping, all advertising, whatever. Maybe let me post more than 10 pictures, on the premier photo sharing site at a time. How you doing?
No, their net income slashed by 50%. They're
Right.
also continuing to dump money like it's free.
That's a tough one for me because I want to I want to write that up, but it violates my rule of not writing anything about Meta.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, jeez. Yeah. I have the shakiest firmament here as a setup. I'm on a table that's from IKEA, so it's not exactly level. I've got a portable laptop stand, so it's like the ricketiest, thing that folds up into nothing. There's a laptop on top of it, and then I have this Dell webcam that's kind of perched. It's like a barrel thing, like an old one of those old iSight cameras from Apple. Anyway, the point of that is if this thing is shaking a lot, it's not because I'm coming down with something. It's because like I could make the thing. It's kind of a visual representation of how I feel inside. How you doing?
Apple reports their earnings today.
I know.
So if there's one company that's going to buck the trend of kind of underperforming the market,
well,
Apple's
you know what though? Actually, I think they're still going to, for Apple, right? We have to put this in context. There was a great line in a story in the New York Times that said something like, I don't remember the exact company. It was Microsoft, Google, and one other company collectively, maybe it was just those two, reported, 50. No, it wasn't those two. 50, whatever it was, 3 companies, 50 billion in profits, right? Google, or Apple rather, is expected to deliver another 20-ish today, and this will be considered a downtime for big tech. They're slashing employee roles, they're raising prices, right, which is the exact right thing to do when the economy's in free fall. Yeah, so this is the world we live in, right? You have to put everything in context, I guess. The rest of the world would give anything to have those problems, but there they are.
Yeah, speaking of raising prices, Phil Spencer took to the stage yesterday during a Wall Street Journal Live event. And now he didn't commit to that they were going to raise prices, but he said, we're going to get through the holiday season, and then we're going to look at things. And Paul, I will put money on it that if they get the close Activision acquisition, Game Pass pricing will go up.
Because of course it will. Yeah, no. And by the way, forget the economy. You add that stable of games to that.
Yep.
You have to raise prices.
Yep.
I mean, you have to. That thing becomes much more valuable. I got to say, I'm trying to think if I have enough information to write something like this, but I want to write an article about Phil Spencer. And it's sort of the opposite. Like when a CEO or some tech leader does the wrong thing, you might write if he did something bad, I might write an article called, "Oh, Phil," I want to do the opposite of that because Phil Spencer is this breath of fresh air. He feels like an outsider, like someone who isn't a tech leader. he's just plain spoken and smart in a very common sense kind of a way, right? He doesn't come off as some, visceral genius like Mark Razinovich or something, who's also a great guy, honestly, whatever. But I mean, he just seems like a guy, you know? But then he talks and you're like, right. Like he gets it right, like every time. And what I want is more examples of this. But the most recent is they ask him about the metaverse and Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, this thing looks like a poorly designed video game. He goes like, why would I want to spend more time in a meeting room? And you know what? That is the most concise and perfect description of why that stuff is so terrible, right?
Yeah.
It's perfect. He's 100% right. And I think the rest of us, you try to get around the thing like, okay, it's cool, right?
Is
it's
it?
Cool. No, well, you want to think it is.
Sure.
But then you look at it and you're like, no, this is stupid. Look, we live in a world where we need hybrid meeting solutions. We just do, Those things are by nature boring, and they're just productivity, work focused. It's whatever. We need them. Nobody likes them. It is what it is. And he just comes out and says it, and you're like, right, like we need more of that. The only person I can think of who reminds me of that, and this is dating things a bit because this was a long time ago, is Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban is possibly a genius, actually, but back in the early days when he was pioneering things like he had an HD TV channel at a time when no TV was in HD. I don't even remember the name of it. I would see him. He would see him speak, and he would come to tech conference, and he was the same thing, just jeans, t-shirt, and he would just kind of talk, and you're like, this guy's got all the answers, Just common sense. It's that thing we just seem to be lacking in our industry. As we race toward ever bigger profits and ever more paid services and more money funneling out of our pockets every month or whatever, he's just like, he was just smart. Phil Spencer
irony
is
in
smart
that
in the right way.
is that Phil Spencer is absolutely the industry insider. That's all he's done. Is Xbox started in the mailroom, gone all the way up.
But yes, I mean, I know I can't explain what makes him different from Satya Nadella, this robot genius guy, or Tim Cook, who came up out of sales and is obviously like a supply line genius, whatever, supply chain genius. Steve Jobs, who had that kind of mercurial, whatever, I don't know what you call a guy like that, very different from everyone else. But Phil Spencer is just, he's a guy. Like, if you didn't know who he was, sat down next to him at a bar, you could spend 2 hours and be like, man, that guy was really interesting. And he really had his head together. He never said anything stupid the entire time.
Yeah, you don't get the feeling that he rolled up in a Rolls Royce to this event.
No, although the guy's probably driving around in a Ferrari or something, because why wouldn't he? But
yeah.
I don't. There's something about him that I find very refreshing. Actually, the example I came up with originally in my brain was, I used to go to these Microsoft events all the time, obviously, industry events, back when Bill Gates was still around. It was always like this nasally, droning, boring, like whatever. Every once in a while, they bring someone out on stage from another industry, from another company, and inevitably that person was the best thing about the show. They had like Louis Vuitton or something like that on one time, or someone from that company. They had a drill sergeant from like the Army or Marines at one point, was amazing. The Rock was on at the Xbox thing, with which people remember. You can go back and look those things up, and like that part of the event was always the most interesting. And I feel like Phil Spencer is like that. Like we need less of the scripted Microsoft Apple style pandemic era nonsense and more of plain spoken. Just he's not a genius. He's a guy, and he's just speaking common sense.
Yeah.
Does that even make sense? It's hard. It's a hard thing to
describe.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just somebody who likes games and just kind of hit the lottery of the career.
Right. Exactly. I wish we had more people like that, not just at Microsoft, but just in tech in general. I think he's amazing, and just in an understated way. This is going to end, and I'm going to keep talking about him because I'm so impressed.